Family ties or business lies? A brother-in-law's betrayal. Family comes first, Ryan said, leaning back in his chair with a sly smile, sipping his beer. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. It wasn't just the words, but the way he said them. It wasn't concern, it was a warning. The kind of warning you get when someone's about to take something that doesn't belong to them. We were at the usual family dinner, the kind that we always had on Sundays. The room was filled with the familiar hum of chatter and laughter, the clink of silverware against plates, and the warmth of the oven-roasted chicken filling the air. My wife, Emma, sat beside me, her hand resting lightly on my knee, her eyes flicking between me and her brother across the table. She must have sensed it too, the same unease I felt. But she was silent, letting the conversation roll on, even as I couldn't help but feel the weight of Ryan's words. Ryan wasn't exactly subtle. His eyes were always a little too sharp, his questions always a little too pointed. Tonight, his attention seemed to be fixed on me, as if I were the only one in the room. He kept circling back to my business, asking questions that, on the surface, seemed innocent enough. "How many clients do you have now, Daniel?" he asked casually, swirling his drink. "And they're all solid, right?" I forced a smile, picking up my glass to buy myself some time. "We're steady. Not too fast, not too slow." Ryan's eyes glinted with something that made my skin crawl. That's good, that's good. Steady is good." He nodded as if he was evaluating me, running the numbers in his head. "You've got a good thing going, man. Really good." I shifted in my seat, the weight of his gaze still heavy on me. "Yeah, I guess we've worked hard for it." Emma's fingers tightened around my knee beneath the table, a silent signal. She knew. She always knew. But she kept quiet, too, as if waiting for the storm to pass. I glanced at her, but she didn't meet my eyes. Instead, she focused on her plate, stabbing at her vegetables with a little more force than necessary. Ryan kept going, his words coated with just the right amount of casual interest. "I've been hearing about some big startups lately. You're getting a lot of attention in the tech world, huh? That must feel pretty good." "Just doing what we can to keep the lights on," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. But Ryan wasn't done. His smile never wavered, but there was something in his eyes, a hunger, a need. "You know, with all your success, you could be doing so much more. Imagine what we could do together. Combine your stability with my connections. It could be huge." There it was, the hint of an offer, a bait that looked shiny but came with a hook buried deep underneath. I felt Emma's grip tighten around my knee again, a silent warning to tread carefully. The conversation moved on, but my mind stayed stuck on Ryan's words. Something wasn't right. I should have known then, should have seen it in the way he stared at me, the way his questions were all calculated moves. As dinner wore on, I found myself retreating into my thoughts, the weight of his words pressing down harder with every passing minute. When we finally left the table, Emma leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "Be careful, Daniel. I don't trust him. Something feels off." I nodded, but inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was about to lose everything I had worked so damn hard to build. Ryan's visit to my office felt strangely orchestrated, like he had planned every moment down to the last detail. It wasn't an accident that he showed up unannounced, just as I was wrapping up a meeting with my team. He burst in, all smiles, his energy so infectious it almost made me forget the unease I'd felt just a few days ago. "Daniel, my man, you've got a beautiful office here," Ryan said, his voice warm, exaggerated in a way that almost made it sound like he was speaking to an old friend. "I've been thinking a lot about what we talked about last week, and I think it's time we took the next step." I barely had a chance to respond before he was already pacing around the room, inspecting my trophies, my awards, all the things that represented the years of hard work and sleepless nights I'd put into building this company. He was soaking it all in like it was his now to claim. "Look," he said, turning back to me, his hands clasped together. "You've got a solid thing going here, really solid. But imagine this, combining your stability with my connections. You've got the groundwork, I've got the investors. Together, we could." "Ryan," I interrupted, holding up my hand, trying to keep my voice calm. I appreciate the offer, but we're doing fine as we are. Steady growth, manageable pace. I don't need investors. I need to protect what we've built. He didn't flinch. Instead, his smile only widened, as if he expected this. Family should come first, right? That's always been the mantra, hasn't it? His words were smooth, like oil slipping into a crack, making it just a little harder for me to ignore the pressure building on me. Before I could say anything, he pushed on. Think about it. We're family, Daniel. You don't want to be the one to say no when an opportunity like this comes around. I've got the backers lined up, all ready to take this company to new heights. You'd be a fool not to consider it. His words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. It's not about being a fool, Ryan. It's about doing what's right for the people who've put their trust in me. I stared him down, feeling my resolve firm up. The employees, the clients, they're why I started this in the first place. Ryan's expression didn't change, but his tone shifted, becoming more insistent, more persuasive. You don't have to do it alone. We're family, Daniel. We help each other out, especially when things get tough. You don't want to look back and regret not helping your own, do you? I knew where this was headed. The guilt trip was already in motion, the same one that had worked on me for years. The same one that always seemed to make me question whether I was doing enough for those closest to me. The silence hung between us, thick with the weight of his unspoken words. He had set the stage, and I knew, the moment I let myself waver, it was over. Before I share what happened next, the moment that made me realize just how far Ryan was willing to go, I want to connect with you, my amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for something you believe in, hit that like button, because this story is just getting started. Ryan's eyes gleamed with anticipation, but my thoughts were racing, and I needed time to process. The words family first kept echoing in my head. I had to make a choice, but I didn't know just how dangerous that choice would be. I spent the next few days buried in my office, the flicker of my computer screen illuminating the darkened room as I dug deeper into Ryan's past. I should have known there was something off about him, but I had trusted him, assuming he was just a guy trying to make it like the rest of us. How wrong I had been. The first few articles I found were easy enough to dismiss: small-time mistakes, failed projects, bad luck. But as I dug further, the cracks began to widen. Ryan's business ventures weren't just failing, they were crumbling under the weight of fraud, bad deals, and unpaid debts. There were whispers of lawsuits that never made it to court, settlements that were hush-hush, and shady business practices that were carefully covered up. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I pulled up his company's financial records, some from public databases, some from sources I could barely track down. The pattern was clear. Ryan had been using other people's names, leveraging relationships to gain trust and access. He wasn't the underdog trying to rise above, he was a man trying to exploit any opportunity to get ahead, even if it meant stepping over people along the way. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't keep ignoring the truth. I had to confront Emma. I found her in the living room later that evening, scrolling through her phone, her expression distant. The weight of what I had uncovered felt unbearable, and I couldn't keep it inside any longer. "Emma, we need to talk," I said, my voice tight with urgency. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with concern, but I could see the hesitation in her gaze. She knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" "I've found out everything," I said, taking a deep breath. "His company, it's in ruins. He's been using our name to get ahead, and the mess he's left behind is worse than I thought." Emma froze, her face draining of color. "What are you talking about?" "Emma, he's been lying to us." "Lying to you?" "He's not just struggling, he's been running a business full of fraudulent deals, broken promises, and shady dealings. His whole business model has been based on manipulation. Do you not see it? He's been doing this to other businesses." Emma's face softened, a mixture of disbelief and guilt crossing her features. She looked down at her hands, trying to process what I had just told her. "But he's family, Daniel," she whispered, her voice shaky. "He's learned from his mistakes. He deserves another chance." "No," I said, the words coming out sharper than I intended. "He doesn't deserve a chance, Emma. He's using us. He's been using everyone he's ever come in contact with. And now he's targeting me, our company, our future. Can't you see that?" She hesitated, the truth clearly weighing on her, but the loyalty she felt for her brother held her back. "He's been through a lot, Daniel. Maybe he just needs someone to believe in him. He's been through tough times. I shook my head, my frustration growing. That's not the point. This isn't about giving him another shot, Emma. It's about protecting everything we've built. My team, our clients, they depend on me. And now Ryan's trying to tear it all down for his own gain. Her eyes were filled with pain, and for a moment I felt the weight of her struggle. I understood her desire to protect her family, but this was too much. I can't keep ignoring this, I said quietly, my resolve hardening. We have to stop him. I can't let him destroy everything I've worked for. Everything we've worked for. She stood up slowly, a defeated look crossing her face. I don't know what to do, Daniel. He's my brother. I've always trusted him. I know, I said softly, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. But this isn't just about family anymore. This is about truth. And we have to stand up for what's right, even if it costs us. The silence between us stretched long and heavy, neither of us knowing exactly how to move forward. But I knew one thing for sure, I couldn't let Ryan win. I couldn't let him destroy everything I'd worked so hard to build, no matter how much family loyalty was on the line. Before I share what happened next, the moment that made me realize just how far Ryan was willing to go to get what he wanted, I want to hear from you, my amazing viewers. How far would you go to protect what you've worked for? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you're ready for the next chapter of this story, hit that like button because it's about to get intense. The tension in the office had been building for days, a slow burn that finally erupted when Ryan walked in unannounced as if he owned the place. His smile was wide, his energy seemingly boundless, but I could feel the storm brewing behind his eyes. This wasn't just a visit anymore. It was a takeover. I had already heard the whispers, employees talking behind closed doors, clients pulling back, murmurs of promises made without my knowledge. I'd been patient, I tried to reason with him, but now there was no ignoring it. Ryan wasn't trying to help. He was taking over, using every ounce of charm and manipulation to twist everything into his own vision. Daniel, Ryan greeted me as if everything were normal, strolling around my office like it was his. I've been talking to the team, and they're excited about the changes coming. I've got some ideas to streamline operations, cutting-edge stuff. I think it's time to modernize, right? I could feel my pulse quicken. What do you mean by changes, Ryan? He stopped and turned to face me, his eyes glinting with that same fake warmth. Just some restructuring, you know? A little rebranding. You've got a great foundation, but there's so much more potential here if we just take it to the next level. My stomach twisted. You've been talking to my employees, making promises without my consent, Ryan. That's not how we do things here. He shrugged, that arrogant smirk never leaving his face. I'm just helping, Daniel. You're too close to it sometimes. The team's excited. They need leadership, real leadership. He paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly. I've already talked to the clients too. They're on board. I think they'll be thrilled about the direction I'm proposing. I stood up, my fists clenching at my sides. You've been lying to everyone. This is my company, Ryan, and I'm not handing it over to you. Ryan's smirk widened into something cold, almost predatory. We'll see about that, Daniel. Your clients are already asking questions. They're wondering where your vision is going. Some of them have said they'd like to see more stability, more certainty. Family businesses thrive on trust, don't they? I felt my blood boil. This wasn't about business anymore. This was about control. His words were a direct attack on everything I had worked for, everything I had built with my team, my clients, and the trust we had fostered. I couldn't back down. I took a step toward him, my voice low but fierce. You have no idea what you're playing with, Ryan. You've used family to manipulate your way into this company, and I'm done playing along. I'm not going to let you destroy what we've worked so hard for. His eyes flashed with something darker, something that almost looked like a threat. You're making a mistake, Daniel. Family comes first. You wouldn't want to let everyone down, would you? Your clients, your employees. Get out of my office, I cut him off, my voice sharp, final. I was done. The calm was gone, replaced by a raw anger that surged through me. I wasn't going to let him use my own sense of loyalty against me any longer. Ryan stood there for a long moment, his gaze never leaving mine. For a split second, I thought he might back down. But then his smile returned, only this time it wasn't a friendly one. It was the smile of someone who believed he had already won. You'll regret this, Daniel, he said, his voice dripping with coldness. I promise you that. I didn't flinch. No, I won't. Now get out. He lingered for a moment longer, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read, before turning and walking out the door. I watched him go, my heart racing. This wasn't over. It had only just begun. Before I tell you how this showdown spiraled into something I never expected, I want to hear from you, my incredible viewers. Have you ever faced someone who tried to take something from you, whether at work or in life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you think it's time to fight back, hit that like button because this battle is about to get a whole lot more intense. The final blow came faster than I had expected. The weeks after my confrontation with Ryan felt like a blur, a whirlwind of legal battles, phone calls, and long nights spent with my team piecing together every lie, every manipulation, every shady deal Ryan had orchestrated. But the truth had a way of coming out, and with it came the power to destroy everything Ryan had worked so hard to cover up. I sat in my office late one evening, the dim light casting long shadows on the walls as I reviewed the stack of documents in front of me. Each piece was a nail in the coffin for Ryan's lies, signed contracts, emails, even recordings of phone calls where he made promises to clients that he couldn't keep. With the help of Nicholas, my most trusted employee, and a few loyal clients who had seen through Ryan's false promises, we built a case so solid it was undeniable. I had done my research, gathered the evidence, and now it was time to act. The legal team was ready, and we sent everything we had to the right people, journalists, regulators, and key industry partners. The media didn't take long to pick up the story. The truth began to spread like wildfire, and Ryan's empire of lies crumbled before his eyes. The first to turn were his investors. When the truth came out about the fraudulent deals and mismanagement of funds, they pulled out faster than I could have imagined. His reputation, carefully constructed over the years, shattered in an instant. News outlets were quick to label him a fraud, a con artist who had preyed on those closest to him. But the fallout didn't stop there. Ryan's family, those who had rallied behind him, those who had pressured me into giving him a chance, felt the full weight of his actions. His parents, who had stood by him through every scheme, found themselves under fire for enabling him. His sister, Emma, was caught in the middle, trying to reconcile her love for her brother with the reality of his betrayal. I knew it wasn't easy for her, but in the end, I couldn't be the one to protect him anymore. Family loyalty only goes so far when the truth is staring you in the face. I met Emma in a quiet corner of the office one afternoon, the weight of everything hanging between us. "I'm sorry, Daniel," she said, her voice soft, almost apologetic. "I should have seen it earlier. I should have known." I looked at her, my heart heavy with the burden of what had happened. "You didn't know, Emma. But you do now. And that's what matters." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I should have trusted you, not him." And then, finally, there was peace. Ryan's name was dragged through the mud, his schemes exposed for all to see. The family I had once hoped to protect was torn apart by his actions, but I stood tall, knowing that I had done what was right. My business, the one I had built from nothing, grew stronger in the aftermath. Clients who had once been skeptical about the direction we were headed rallied behind us, knowing that we stood on solid ground, backed by integrity. "This is how it ends, Ryan," I whispered, staring at the final piece of evidence, a document that sealed his fate. Not with a whisper, but with the truth. I could almost hear his voice in my mind, desperate and cold. "You'll regret this, Daniel." But I stood my ground. "No, I won't. I'm protecting the people who truly matter." The legal battles were over. The public had spoken. Ryan's world had collapsed in the wake of his lies, and mine had emerged stronger, more resilient than ever. The victory felt sweet, but it came with a bitter edge, the cost of betrayal, of losing family, of seeing the truth tear everything apart. In the end, I realized something important. Family may come first, but only when it's built on trust and respect. Without that foundation, even the strongest of bonds can break. And as for me, I had protected my company, my team, and the people who truly mattered. That was enough. I didn't need to look back anymore. The future was mine to shape.